Hi there, welcome to Counterpunch with Trevor Loudon, the show that exposes the unfolding world communist revolution. And that's exactly what we're in, folks. We can deny it all we like, but unfortunately that's how things are. So please like the show, send the show around, get the word out as much as possible. We have not much time to save this wonderful planet. Well, we've all been freaking out about Afghanistan, haven't we? We've seen major disaster unfolding in Afghanistan. Clearly, American troops were not prepared for what was happening. And what is happening is a major shift in the world balance of power towards China and Russia and people around the Taliban, etc. And I think this is completely deliberate. I think it was easily foreseeable. It was designed to destroy America's prestige in the world and shift the balance of power. But it's really taken a bit of focus off another chaotic situation, and that is the southern border.
The Biden administration is facing increasing pressure from both Republicans and Democrats for its decisions relating to immigration and border security.
You know, we're still seeing hundreds of thousands of people crossing the border, masked, unmasked, COVID positive, non-COVID positive. Other than Mexicans, we're seeing all sorts of nationalities cross the border. And I believe this is part of the same thing. The Afghanistan debacle was designed to weaken America internationally. The border is designed to weaken America nationally. Now, it's important to note that the American Communist Movement, and I'm specifically talking here about Liberation Road, the main pro-Chinese communist group, they see Mexico as the key to the American Revolution. They see that basically making the border porous, collapsing the US border, will destroy the United States and pave the way for a socialist republic, stretching from Latin America all the way to the Canadian border effectively. Not long ago, Mr. AMLO, the Mexican president, released a document, and it was all about the Bolivarian Revolution. Simón Bolívar was the famous patriot who liberated a whole bunch of Latin American countries from the Spanish in the 1820s, and he is revered as a hero in Latin America today. Well, AMLO Obrador, the president of Mexico, released a document. It's talking about how, Bolivar freed the Spanish-speaking people of Latin America from Spain. The next step is to free them from American hegemony. In other words, what he's calling for is an alliance of states in Latin America that will stand up to the Americans, will call for the abolition of borders, and basically dissolve any distinction between Latin America and the United States of America. This is the American Communist Revolution. This document has been published in the Communist Party USA website, Liberation Road website, etc. It's comparatively mildly worded, it doesn't talk about revolution. What it talks about is changing the balance of power, dissolving the borders, allowing the free flow of migrants across those borders. It means the end of America, but it's put in relatively moderate terms. Now, we need to understand that Mr. AMLO, the Mexican president, is a communist. Now, a lot of people, he got on quite well with President Trump. President Trump basically told him he had to seal the borders. He had to keep migrants in place while their so-called claims of asylum were processed. And a lot of American conservatives thought that AMLO was probably a good guy. But AMLO was doing that because he had to. Now that he doesn't have to, now that Joe Biden is president, AMLO is just leaving the borders wide open. He is doing nothing at all to stop the flow of illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, terrorists, whatever across the border. Nothing at all. So he's clearly, when it suits him, he is on the side of the devils here. Now, AMLO came up through the PRI, the Revolutionary Institutional Party. And in Mexico, you know, you have ideological parties, you have Communist Party of Mexico and various Trotskyist parties, etc. But they're very amorphous, and what they tend to do is work through the mainstream political parties as factions. So AMLO came up through this, and he was. It was revealed not long ago that the Mexican intelligence services released documents saying that he was a member of the Mexican Communist Party in the 1970s. He gave money to the party, he supported the party, and of course AMLO denies this, as he would. But the evidence is overwhelming that AMLO was a communist. So now he's the president of Mexico, and his party Morena is the dominant political party in the country. Now Morena has a lot of factions. It has left-wingers, it has moderates, whatever. In the scale of things, you would call it a left-wing political party. And what I'm told is this: AMLO just won the midterm elections not long ago. He is going to take that country full on Venezuela. He is going to take it full on communist. They know this will crash the economy, but this is the goal. This is what they intend to do. Now, just go back a little bit. AMLO is also very heavily tied into the Sao Paulo Forum. Now, that was set up in the early 90s by Fidel Castro of Cuba and Lula da Silva, who became the president of Brazil. And the idea was you unite all the terrorist parties, the communist parties, the socialist parties, the social democratic parties of Latin America, and you cooperate, you coordinate, you use the Cubans, basically move money around, etc. And you start to take down countries. And so through the 90s, we had what was called the pink tide, you know, where Chile went socialist, Argentina went socialist, Venezuela obviously went socialist, Brazil went socialist under Lula. And so you had a pink tide moving right across Latin America. Now the rationale for the Sao Paulo Forum was to gain for communism what had been lost in Eastern Europe. So communism had so-called collapsed in Eastern Europe, you know, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Poland, they'd all been lost to the communist cause, at least to some degree. So the goal was to bring back for communism in Latin America what had been lost in Eastern Europe. And AMLO was and remains a very integral part of this. So AMLO is really going to push socialism. Now I want you to do a little bit of math, folks. Now, Venezuela was once the most prosperous country in Latin America. Massive oil reserves, wonderful country, everybody was doing okay there. Well, they elected Hugo Chavez. They had some semi-socialist governments before that, but they didn't pay too much attention. Hugo Chavez became the president, started to move more and more towards socialism, brought the Cubans into the country, etc. And after a few years of that, you couldn't buy toilet paper. You couldn't buy chicken. You couldn't buy any of the basics for life. Now, what is going to happen when AMLO takes Mexico fully down the socialist road, which he intends to do? This is the story I'm hearing out of Morena, AMLO's party. They're going to go full on socialist. They know it's going to wreck the economy, but that's the plan. Because AMLO is working with the Chinese, AMLO is working with the Russians and the Nicaraguans, and he's building a new Bolivarian movement in Latin America, which basically aims to erase the Mexican-American border and flood the whole of the southern states with millions and millions of refugees. This is the end game for America. And Joe Biden and his crew are aiding and abetting it. So Mexico's got 130 million people. Right now, the Mexican economy's still chugging along, you know, a lot of drug receipts are keeping it going, and there's still substantial industry in Mexico. There's substantial American investment and car factories and that kind of thing. But that's coming to a screeching halt. So where are 20% of 130 million Mexicans going to go to? Where are a whole bunch of Guatemalans and Nicaraguans and Hamas guerrillas and Egyptians and Gambians and Togolese, etc., going to come to. They're going to come across a very porous Mexican border. And right now we've seen very little in the way of action to stop this. You know, there's talk about arresting people crossing the border in Texas. I think they've arrested a dozen out of hundreds of thousands. You know, there's talk about building a fence. Well, you know, a chain link fence is not going to keep these people out. This is an invasion. We're only beginning to see this now. This is going to get way bigger and way worse because this is the end game for America. The situation in Afghanistan is existential on a world stage. The situation on the southern border is also existential. And it is being orchestrated by American communists loyal to China, part of the Sao Paulo Forum, tied, you know, linked up with Morena, the Mexican party, and working with AMLO, the communist, neo-communist president of Mexico. So I hope this will put what's happening on the border in a little bit of perspective. It is existential, people, and it is being aided and abetted by weak Republicans who are not willing to stand up, you know, to secure the borders, even though we're under military attack, pretty much. So if we do not get on top of this, America is over. And if you think the world is going to be peace and roses and rainbows and unicorns without America, it is going to be hell on earth. And we've got a very limited amount of time to seal those borders, to stop this going on, to hold a big investigation into Liberation Road, their links to China, their links to Mexico, their absolute treasonous behavior, and actually do something about this. It has to be dealt with. No nation can survive this kind of thing. So I hope you found this interesting, people. I hope you found it a little bit scary. I hope it spurs you to action. Please distribute this to people on the border, to legislators that you may know of. You know, I'm happy to back up everything I say here. You don't come to a foreign country and talk about its destruction without having some evidence to back up what you have to say. So thanks very much for watching. Please share the episode, pass it around, like Counterpunch with Trevor Loudon. I got lots more interesting shows coming up, believe me. This revolution is a pretty big deal. So let's just pray hard, get ourselves in order, and get ready to defend this great nation and freedom on the planet. So thanks very much for watching. God bless America, and God bless every one of you. Thank you.